Another live stream. So many live streams. Anyway, first cigarette of the morning. Not had one for, since last night. So we'll have one of them. Shouldn't do because they're so expensive. Right, let's get logged in on the Tube Review and see who else is in the workshop. Oh, we're not there yet. Come on, YouTube, catch up. Boom, 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 but there we go. Oh, look at that. They've changed that now. Brilliant. I like it. As long as I can work my way around it, we'll be all right, won't we? Okie dokie. Well, it looks like Andy is on his own at the moment, but don't worry. Lots of people are going to join very soon. I'm sure of it. We've got here a pie for the day. It's been a few weeks since we've had a pie, to be fair. And I've missed my pies. I've tried to cut back because there's more Andy than there used to be, but that's good value for money, right? We've got an Oxford pie, and this is a nacho beef and cheese, and we're pretty sure we've not done it before. If you think I have, let me know, and we'll go and check the wall, but I'm pretty sure we haven't. And I spotted this the other day, so I thought, right, we'll have a pie for the weekend. Job's a carrot. The Giants, good evening, Andy and crew. How are you, Andy? Mate, I'm actually all right. It's been a bit of an odd week. Been sort of away and then working from home and bits and pieces. It's been busy as well. Now, the good news is we've got some new tools have arrived, so I made a start yesterday actually, doing some more of the filming on the TD42 engine. And for Jane, you'll be fully aware of what we're doing. And yesterday, I did a video on the all the valve measurements. So we extracted some valves from the head, made a little jig with DTI, basically just a mini V block that also mounted the DTI to avoid any kind of movement, and did those measurements. And I've got to edit that video up. But there's quite a few checks that you do on valves, especially according to the Nissan service manual. There's a lot of checks to do. So we did pretty much all of them bar one, because I didn't believe that the last one was really valid anyway, to be honest. And you don't normally do that check on an engine. It just seemed that Nissan had included that as well, maybe as an alternative method of checking, but it's not conclusive, so I left it out. And then, so we did valves, and we also did valve guides, 2 separate videos. And then today, after the live stream, it's not going to be such a long day today because I didn't finish till like 7 last night. So today we're going to be 5 o'clock finish. But I've got, what can we do today? I've got the push rods and the followers and maybe the camshaft. Not sure yet. I am waiting on another micrometer to turn up. I'm not sure if I can measure the journals on the cam yet accurately. Sure, I could use the verniers, but they're not as accurate as a micrometer, so we should really wait a little bit for that one. Banana Brooks. No, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. Funny. Simon, morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, Simon. Hope the cider went down well last night, sir. I've run out of cider, so we'll have to go shopping at some point, I'm sure. And it's good to have a break, isn't it? Every now, I don't drink a lot of alcohol. I don't drink a lot of alcohol, really. Just now and again. When it's in the fridge, he gets drunk. When it's not in the fridge, it's at the pub, right? Okay. What's this? Oh, on your own. Yes. I was for a minute. It's always, when you do a live stream, you're like, is anyone going to join? Am I on my own? Especially when he's setting up as well. It's weird. People are watching in the background when I'm out on location. It's like, do they know? And they're like, what's he doing? And then they soon twig and like, oh. And then sometimes you get the kids in the background trying to get in and stuff. It's funny. Jim K, hello. Good morning, Jim, and welcome back to the workshop, sir. Been very productive yesterday. Been doing some engine measurements. Yes. And it got me wondering, actually. It did. And I discussed this with Simon yesterday, but now that I'm doing all these engine measurements again, and I don't do them all the time. Okay, just now and again, in my own workshop at least, just now and again, it's not very frequent that we rebuild engines. But I've done plenty over the years. And I've learnt a lot more about doing it properly in the last decade, to be fair. And I often wonder these days, first of all, how many workshops have actually got the equipment, because I've had to buy a few bits and pieces to do this particular job, to do it properly, because I want to do it properly on the videos. It's all about education and using the right tools. So, I've not had a full suite of tools for a while, so I thought, right, now's the time, and we'll have a little look at what's come in. Ben's currently trying to find a meter long straight edge. Well, it needs to be 700 mil minimum for the head. It's a lot longer head than we've done before. My straight edges won't. They're just not long enough. So he's searching for that. I've got another micrometer coming, which is 50 mil to 75 mil, and I've still got to source a 25 to 50 mil one. Actually, I don't mind digital. Well, for micrometers, I actually prefer digital because I can read them easier. My eyesight's crap these days. When it comes to DTIs, I actually quite like the needle, the old school needle, the analog needle working. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, I actually wonder how many workshops now that do engine rebuilds actually have the proper equipment to do all the measurements. That's point number one. Point number two is, do they have the skill set to do it properly? And question number three, or point number three is, do they bother? Looks about right, So I think it's a dying skill set. And sure, with the automotive industry, the regular run-of-the-mill cars, where they're all the mass production vehicles, take that Ford Ranger, right? The Ford Ranger that I used to have for work before I got the Isuzu. Ford had a few problems, like most manufacturers, had a few problems with the engines. Or Subaru in the past, one of my students, one of my ex-students, he got a job at a Subaru dealership. They had a problem with one of the engines burning. I think it was a 2.5 litre burning oil. And all he did for about a year was fit crate engines. They didn't bother to fix the old engine. They just popped it out, took it out, and put a crate engine in, and off you go, sir. Same with the Rangers. They just put a short block in. Or if there's a problem with the head, and they do crap the heads, they'll put a complete engine in. So, I suppose, and I'm a fan of fitting crate engines in those circumstances when it's a car within warranty. It's a guarantee because of there's a combination of factors, but because of the shortfall of skill set in the industry and the labor costs and quality control, so less comebacks, right? And it's a quicker turnaround for the workshop because they're shorter techs and can't afford the labor time to do it, especially when it's warranty. A crate motor makes so much more sense. Better for the customer. He's happy because he's getting an engine built at the factory. When a dealership repairs an engine under warranty, it doesn't matter what brand it is, the customer's like, yeah, but did you build it to the same standards as the factory? I don't feel very happy about that, and they use it as a point of leverage. They grumble. And by fitting a crate motor, it avoids all of those problems. Plus, to be fair, for the warranty side of it, because the labor content's so high, the warranty bill is normally lower overall. And I think the dealership feels happier about doing it as well because they have less responsibility on the repair. If there is a problem with the engine, that's a problem for the manufacturer of the engine to deal with. If there's a problem with the installation, they can usually fix that pretty quick. Maybe there's a pipe left off or a wire not plugged in or a bolt missing or whatever it is. Hopefully there wouldn't be. But it's definitely the way that the car industry has gone in the last couple of decades. So the last decade, a lot more crate engines being fitted. Motorcycle industry, I don't think is really ever going to get to that level. However, the motorcycle industry now builds ROVs, side-by-sides, and many of them are used for commercial operations. So it's not just a, it's only this country. And when we were in the UK, we had a similar fleet over there with the off-road site. And we would often, if we had a problem with an engine on one of our patrols or an engine in one of our little Suzuki Jeeps, we would just swap it out. I mean, I could have an engine out of a Suzuki Jeep SJ410 in 45 minutes, flat, on my own, job done. And that was without an engine hoist. SJ413s took a little bit longer because they were harder to get to the bolts and stuff, but not much longer, really. Patrols took a lot longer. They were a pain in the ass. But they hardly ever went wrong. So, great machines. So, will the motorcycle industry start to follow suit with their drive-in vehicles, or will they continue down the track of repairing them like a motorcycle engine, which takes a long time? You've got a lot of parts. It's parts supply is another problem, If you're rebuilding an engine, you need a lot of parts, and it only takes one part to be on back order, and it ain't happening, So there's a lot to talk about with that kind of stuff. And I think, we've seen it with ancillaries like alternators and starter motors. You wind the clock back 40 years, you go and get your alternator reconditioned, you go and get your starter motor reconditioned. If you were a punter, or if it was me, I'd just fix it myself. Nowadays, workshops don't fix alternators unless they can't get another one, and they'd always send it out. Nearly all of them will send them out as outwork to get them done. Same with the starter motors. When was the last time you heard anybody fit a set of new brushes to a starter motor? Maybe a solenoid if you're lucky, but even that seems to be dying away. A Bendix, that one-way clutch, it just doesn't seem to happen anymore. They just order a new starter and stick it in, and then the old core unit goes back for a credit. Anyway, Andy rambles on. We should be putting the pie in shortly. What have we got? So, good morning, Jim. That's what we got to. Now then, Connor K. Morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, Connor. Welcome back, sir. Good to hear from you. Mrs. Mechanic is doing well. The Giant. Measuring tools are not cheap and time-consuming. Man, it does take a long time. It really, really does. I've still got some of the valve springs to measure. But to be fair, in the video, which has already gone out on the valve springs, a fail. The spring that we tested was it failed 2 of the 3 inspections. And you wouldn't just replace one valve spring, you replace all of them. And they're all most likely going to be the same way. Am I going to measure all the valve springs? Probably not. But what I am going to do is, because we've got the jig, is I'm going to show Ben how to do it. Ben's coming down in a few days' time, and hopefully I'll have a day in the workshop with him, and I can teach him. Now that we've got all the equipment out, and I've got all the specs and everything to hand, I can actually show him and pass on the skill set of doing those measurements, which is invaluable. And he's never done them before. He hasn't been that involved with engine rebuilds. So that'll be good. Same with the valves. The video that I did yesterday, we did an intake and an exhaust valve because the specs are different. I've still got 5 more cylinders to do. Do I inspect all of them? To be fair, there's one issue with the 2 valves that we inspected, which is pretty bad, in all honesty. Not giving you a spoiler alert, but it's pretty bad, and it shows the significant wear in that particular engine. So I can quickly look at all the remaining valves to see if they've got the same issue. And if they have, they're an instant fail. There's no point in doing any more checks. You're just burning workshop time for the sake of it. I might as well be making videos and other stuff. Where do we get to? Simon. Went down too well. Just about to get one out. Mr. Heaps, Roger. Good morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, Roger. Welcome back to the workshop, matey. Good to have you on board. Jim Haynes. It's all the regulars this morning, isn't it? Mr. Haynes. No, we not going to join. Just came to hit the like button. Funny. It's all pantomime, isn't it? I love pantomimes. They're great fun, especially when you've got kids. Thank you, Jim. Banana Brooks, valve guide wear measurement tips. Yes. In fact, I'll save that. Let's go and do pie, and then we'll have a look at the tools. Okay, so Oxford pies. We've got a nacho beef and cheese. Pretty sure we've not done this one yet. If we have, you've got to tell me, but I am sure we've not. Right, to camera, Andy, to camera. Okay, very crackly packet. Okay, there we go. Now, incidentally, this packaging, plastic, obviously, and it's perforated. So what they do is they stick it in the pie warmer in the petrol station or the cafe, wherever it is you go, in the dairy, as the corner shop, as we call it in England. And they warm up in the packet, obviously, so you know. They get all sweaty and horrible, but the perforations are supposed to prevent that, but they don't. Okay, right. Let us turn around. 3, 2, 1, boom. And we will head to the pie warmer and get my breakfast warming up, because I am hungry. Didn't have too much to eat yesterday. There we go. Right, out of the fridge, so the obligatory 23 minutes. And it's not the camera, it actually is like that. It's really needs to clean. Yes. Okay, where are we going to go? Let's go over here. And we'll do some tool stuff, because you guys like tools. Okay, so great segue, Mr. Banana. Mr. Brooks. Okay, so I'm not going to get it out because it's hidden, but I've got a bore gauge for cylinders, okay, made by Insize. Good brand, good quality brand. And I was looking around originally for some ball gauges for doing the valve guides. Now, a ball gauge, if you're not familiar, basically it has, you know, 2 or I think 3 little prongs, and you can adjust on the top. You wind it up and it pulls the centerpiece through and the prongs slowly spread out. And you set that so there's very gentle drag inside the valve guide. Pull it out, grab your micrometer, pop the piece in there that you've set the size on, that you've put down the bore, and then you can read the size of the bore using the micrometer. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest, because it's so long-winded. You can't just get the measurement from within the bore. You've got to take the tool out, and you've got to do that on every single measurement. And of course, there's margin for error because you're measuring twice, basically. You're measuring in the bore to get that feel, that drag, and then you're bringing it in here and putting it in the micrometer. So there's 2 points of measurement, so to speak. It's a bit weird. So I spotted this, and it was half price. It wasn't over expensive. It was on a deal. Obviously, people are cutting back on buying this kind of gear at the moment because it traditionally is really expensive. I think this was about $300, I think it was, New Zealand, which that's 6 packets of cigarettes, people, just to put it in perspective. So for the next few weeks, smoke less cigarettes, Andy, and you've paid for a nice tool. Okay, I can do that. Now, basically, if you've not seen one of these, you're not familiar with it, and I'm sure most of you are, down here you have a fixed anvil. Is it going to focus? It probably isn't going to focus. Yeah, there you go, look. A fixed anvil on this side, and then this side, you've got a little pin. I don't think I can set focus on this. I can, look at that. Okay, and that one there, if I push that in, you can see the needle move. And there's different size anvils to fit this. I fitted the 8mm anvil because the valve guides on the TD42 engine are 8mm. Okay, but in the kit, this particular bore gauge will do from 6mm, which is tiny, right up to 10mm. Unfortunately, a lot of motorcycle stuff is about 5 or even 4.5, so this won't do those, and you can't get a smaller one. This is as small as they make, so I'd have to resort to a little ball gauge for doing those, but that's not the end of the world. But in this one, you get all the different size anvils with 0.5 mil increments starting at 6, finishing at 10. And you get a nice little, a neat little plate to store them all as well, which is pretty, it's very well thought out, is this tool. I do like it. It was very well presented, well packed. This little tool here is for loosening off the lock nut down the bottom. Come on, focus. You can do it. There we are, look. So it just fits onto that little tiny, tiny nut down there. Now, if you're ever working on one of these and changing the anvils, make sure you do it on a clean bench. because if you drop one of these little components, and there's also a little tiny washer in there as well, it can be, not that I did, but it would be a nightmare. You could easily lose those parts. Now, the other thing that we got, the micrometer, this is 0 to 25. This is made by ITM. Now, it was cheap, right? I was on a budget. However, it turned out it's, yeah, look, I was nearly around 8 mil yesterday. It's extremely accurate, for now at least. So it'd be interesting to see how, you know, how long it lasts. I like the fact it's got a display on it. So we'll take it down. Yeah, so it's nearly back to 0. Yes, there's probably some dirt on it. Yesterday it dropped straight to 0. I didn't have to reset it. But no, not a bad piece of kit for what it was. This was on, I managed to get this from ISL Industrial, which does the Tang tools, and they were having a clear out, and I paid, believe it or not, just over $100 for this. This was very cheap. A Mitty Toyo, whatever it is, would have been 5 or 6 times that. So, you know, that was a huge win. Very, very happy with that. So, what else have we got to have a look at? Okay, so over here, bear with me, people, bear with me. We'll pull the trolley out a little bit. I'll just spin this round. This was the last job last night, was to clean up, get rid of all that nasty diesel engine oil off the previous components. Again, in line for Ben to do the measurements. So they're all nice and clean for him, all labeled up on the top. Managed to find a box that everything fits in nicely. You know, and you've got to keep them relative, right? I mean, you know, when you're doing an engine like this, at the time, you don't know whether the parts can be reused or not. And if you start mixing stuff up, it can be a real problem. So that's all set for Ben when he comes down. He'll be a happy lad seeing all that. So, you know, I've got to, this is my opportunity to show him how to do things properly, you know. If we come over here, get this, tissues. Right, this is the little jig. You'll see it in the video. That jig at the back, you may have already seen. That was the valve spring load height measuring jig that I made. Worked brilliantly. Very, very happy with that. And this one here is for the valves. So I didn't put that away last night. Okay. Basically, the valve sits across between those two V's, and we've got a very nice digital DTI that I've had for a few years now. Good on the camera. So accurate, hard to zero, to be honest. But anyway, you'll see that on the video. But you know, just a bit of C channel. That's all it is. A couple of notches cut out, and I wanted the V blocks to be integral to the mount for the DTI. So it just reduces any kind of movement, so you get more accurate readings. You know, took me what, half an hour to knock that up. Doesn't take long. Easy. That one, however, did take a bit longer. That's about a day and a half. In all honesty, about a day and a half. Me planning how that's going to work and just refining it. Wasn't the easiest. Engine block. Well, it still needs a clean. Job for Ben when he comes down. But it's all stripped out. There's nothing left in it. It's just sat, essentially, waiting to go up to Auckland to get all the machine work done. But we don't know what needs to be done just yet. You know, is he going to put new liners in it? Is he going to get obviously reboard? Does it need new liners? Can we save on a bit of pennies there? Because this is not going to be a cheap fix. It really isn't. That's a spare head that he bought secondhand, and he's got a couple of cranks down there, neither of which are from this engine. Those are second-hand cranks that he's purchased. Not really sure why, but anyway. And there is another block underneath under there as well. And the engine stand, man, it's doing well. It copes with all that weight, no problem at all. So happy with that. So there you go. Right, coffee time, because it's getting cold. Turn you around, 3, 2, 1, boom. There we go. Never quite know if it's going to work or not, that thing. Right. Much better. Okay, where do we get to with the comments? Nope, coffee first, Andy, coffee. That's not a bad coffee, actually. Bought some really cheap coffee the other day, and it's not that bad. Right. There we go. Thank you, Banana Brooks. That was a great segue to go and look at the tools. Keep going back. Keep going back. There we go. Jim Haynes, I'm going to show off a little. I have a Rimac spring tester, £50 model. Nice. I was doing a bit of a searching before I built that one, and I was pricing a few up, and I was going, oh. It's hard to justify when you're not doing that kind of work every day, you know. And I mean, sure, I could set up and rebuild engines, but is it really worth doing it these days? You know, unless it's a bespoke, top end, rare, old engine. You know, the stuff that you can just go and buy another one out of a scrapyard for a few $100s and stick it in your car, it's just not worth it. Realistically, that RAV4 engine was, even if the block hadn't been warped, which was the downfall for that engine, that's why it was never rebuilt on the videos. If it hadn't have been warped, I would have followed through and done the repair. But it would have cost me way more than just a second-hand engine from a scrapyard that was known good, you know, because there's lots of RAV4s around. And that's what you would do. You wouldn't spend the money doing all the machining work. The vehicle didn't really justify it, to be honest. It wasn't worth that much anyway. I think we only paid $500 for it, you know. Cheap as chips. Micrometers are more expensive than that. So, very nice, Jim. Very nice. And I am going to continue to look around for a second-hand valve spring tester. Now, Jim did mention to me on one of the comments on that video that we could actually have utilized a pillar drill, or drill press, as some people call them, to do those measurements. We'd have to buy scales, and we could, you know, I was going to make up a little disc. God honest truth is I'd already planned this as a plan B before Jim had mentioned it. So, you know, great minds think alike. I was going to, you know, make a disc with a bit of a shaft on it to go in the chuck, and that would then push down on the spring. It would keep the spring vertical and all that kind of stuff. And then with a scale sat on the pedestal, you know, on the workpiece, on the work, what do you call it? The work surface. There you go. Stick it on there, and then as you're pulling down, you know, on the lever, get to the correct loading, you could then grab your ruler and take a little measurement. A few problems. I mean, great idea, but I thought, how am I going to hold position of the load? And it was 70 kilograms, and that's quite a bit. How am I going to hold the position of the load whilst I take an accurate measurement with the verniers? Because I can't just use a ruler. And there was the problem of having to buy some scales that would go up to 70 kilograms. Now, sure, bathroom scales, that would do it, but are they really accurate enough? And they're quite large. But that would have been the cheapest option. And I wasn't really keen on that idea. So I thought, well, okay, we'll look at some industrial type small scales that can do that kind of work. And then I thought, well, what about a load cell? Just buy a load cell with a display. And then it started to get quite expensive again. And I was like, this is not going to happen. So I thought, you know what? I'm overthinking this problem. I've already got a crane scale. I've already got an idea of putting a jig together. Everything I need is already in the workshop. All I need to do is apply some time. And that's why that jig was the final result. I'm not saying it's the best way of doing it, because it's not. But it was a way of doing it at essentially zero. Oh, pardon me, there goes the coffee. At zero cost. And I'd already spent a fair chunk of money on the other stuff. So, you know, we've got to be sensible, because there's going to be a lot of money going into this engine as well. And just going out and buying expensive tools willy-nilly, it's not really justifiable. Not for me. I've got to be sensible about stuff, because money's hard to earn these days. JJ, morning Andy and crew. Good morning, JJ. Welcome back, matey. Good to have you on board. The Giants, we always try to find out what went wrong and sort out the problems for future projects. Absolutely. As with any kind of engine autopsy stroke investigation stroke rebuild, you need to work out what the primary fail is, and you need to do a lot of testing before, if you can, before you take the engine out. Once it's in bits on the bench, you don't have the ability to gather up all the evidence that you would if it was still running in the vehicle, and you can do a few diagnostic checks before you pull it out. Very important. And adapt and learn. You can make life a lot easier for yourself in the future by coming up with some, a special tool that does a job really easily and quickly, rather than fumbling around. You can sort of mass production's the wrong word, but you can streamline what you do, and we're all constantly learning and doing things better. It's nice to be able to walk away from a job and go, yeah, you know what, we did a good job with that. Roger Heaps, look up core shift LS3 engine. Oh, here we go. It's unbelievable what's in tolerance. Core shift. Okay, I'll do it now. Hang on. Core shift LS3. Goodbye live stream. Right. Core shift LS3. What's this? Common manufacturing defect. Core shift is a common manufacturing defect in cast aluminium LS3 engine block, where the cast iron cylinder sleeves are misaligned from their intended position during the casting process. This results in uneven cylinder wall thickness, creating potential weak spots. Okay, well, that's interesting. So LS blocks are made from pouring molten aluminium around pre-placed cast iron sleeves within a sand mold. During this process, the heat and cooling can cause the internal components to move or shift within the mold. That's not ideal, is it? Manufacturers do have their own problems, and every engine seems to have its Achilles heel, doesn't it? Jim Haynes. Car companies in the US pay warranty labor rates, pay a half to a third what they charge their normal customers. So mechanics get screwed. That's not right. That's not right. And if you're doing a job for the manufacturer and it's the manufacturer's fault that the vehicle's failed and they provide the warranty on it, then so be it. Whoa! Did somebody drive into a power pole? Maybe. That'll upset the computer, won't it, that one? The NAS drive doesn't like power cuts. It gets very upset. I need to buy one of those surge protection-y battery things. Stop it turning itself off whenever there's a power cut. Not that we get many, but we get, well, you saw one then. If it's your own job, if the garage has done the warranty on the repair and it's failed and it comes back, the tech, I don't know. I mean, depends how his contract's set up, I suppose. But that is harsh. That's really harsh. And that wouldn't fly here in New Zealand, not at all. Connor K. I like digital micrometers. Easy to read than dial. Never had the opportunity to use digital. I haven't until recently. First digital micrometer. That one. Very cool. Digital DTI a few years ago. Very, very cool piece of kit. Not cheap. It took me a while to pluck up the courage to buy that one. But yeah, I think gone are the days of the old dial micrometers for the next generation. They're all going to be digital, aren't they? I think, really. And just seem to be a lot more accurate, as regards usage accuracy, less chance of misreads, right? Richard Perry. Ooh, look at this. We've got a flag. Hang on, Richard, bear with me. Right, so GB flag. Ta-da! thumbs up. Cheers, Richard. Appreciate it. Welcome to the workshop, matey. Another live stream. Curly Knox. What a nice name. Curly Knox. What a couple of thousand. What's a couple of thousand between friends? Mrs. Mechanic's like, you keep getting stuff in the post. What are you buying? I'm like, need some tools for doing Ben's engine. What tools? Measurement tools. I haven't got what I need. Well, you only bought what? You've already got a micrometer. Why have you bought another one? Because you get them in different sizes. What? Why don't they make one micrometer that does everything? Because they want to sell more, probably. Accuracy? Don't know. But I need them, so it's just the way it is, and we've got to do our best for Ben, right? Because he's our lad, and I want to teach him properly, and obviously the videos are important as well. And well, just slow down on your expenditure, Mr. Young. Okay. Morning, by the way. Good morning. Oh, Tessafun, hang on. I've got a little arrow thing in the way. Tessafun, hang on. Hello, Mr. Andy. You are the best. From my teachers, I have learnt many things with you today. I would like to ask you, reading 65.635 on your dial indicator, it is good on mechanical dial indicator. What? 65.635. That's, yes, on the DTI, you get 3 decimal places of accuracy. On my mechanical DTI, I think it only goes to 2. Does it go to 2? Yeah, point. Bear with me, people. Hang on. Where's the box? There it is. We'll have a look. Pretty sure it is only to 2. So this is my Teng Tools. Very good, actually. I do like it. It's got a lovely face on it for seeing on the camera. So 0.1, yeah, only 2 decimal places on there. So the digital one is much more accurate. It's frustratingly accurate because it's very, very difficult to zero. That's the one thing with it. And often I just give up and go, okay, well, this is the start point. Write it down and then do some sums to work it out. Because you said it's a 0 and, 0.001 movement, and of course it changes. And even just heat in the workshop, I noticed yesterday when I was rolling the valves to measure runout, the heat from my fingers would distort the valve stem and change the reading. How accurate is that? That was like, whoa, I need to just take that into account. Whether it's going to be in the final cut of the video or not, I don't know yet. I'll try and include it. Nope, I don't want to do that. Oh, thank you. Right. Simon, the spare cranks cut into 2 will make some nice table legs. Yeah, Mrs. McKay, she likes me to make sculptures out of, vehicular parts, especially engine parts and stuff, gearboxes and things. She really likes gears and bearings and pistons and conrods and camshafts and stuff. But, and this is a big but, right? Not in the lounge. She'll repeat it. Not in the lounge. That's the phone tried to do an update. My apologies. Stupid phone. And now it thinks that the rotation's wrong. It always does that whenever it goes out, but it's going to still work. We're all right. But you're right. It's good table legs. A lot of people in New Zealand, right, use crankshafts, big, at least 6-cylinder or 8-cylinder inline crankshafts for the leg, the post of their post box that's at the bottom of the driveway. A lot of farms are like that. It seems quite traditional to use a crankshaft for that. I do need to make a new post box. Our post box is in a terrible state. I've got some plans, and maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I could incorporate a crankshaft, do it the Kiwi way, in the post of the post box one day. There goes the pie. Now then, project Far Style, 70 kilograms in weights on the drill handle. Yeah, you could do, couldn't you? But yeah, because it's only a rack and pinion that's in there, so it wouldn't multiply the force. But you're right, you could hang some weights on, but 70 kgs of weight's a fair bit to hang off a handle. You know, you don't ever apply that kind of weight, or I don't, when drilling holes. You shouldn't have to. On a press, obviously, but not on a pillar drill. But anyway, I've done it the way I've done it. I think that is another option. And if you were doing, like, 70 kgs of force on a valve spring is pretty high. On motorcycle springs, it's a lot less. So a drill press would be perfect for those without any problems at all. And that might be something that I'll explore in the future, We do have a digital scale in the kitchen. Don't tell Mrs. Mechanic. But I don't know how high it goes up to. But I mean, you can buy the smaller ones quite cheaply, and that'd be a cool little project to do. Another way of doing it, because it's all about people having access to the tools or some kind of tool to carry out the measurement. Not everybody can go out and buy all this expensive stuff, and I mean, I struggle. So I mean, geez, a lot of people would struggle. I do try to justify it somehow. Simon, pop 50p in the meter, Andy. No, the electric bill is paid until 14th of next month. No, this month is the 1st, isn't it? Okay, we've got 13 more days of electric, people. So if on the next live stream in 2 weeks' time it's dark in the workshop and I've got a torch, mind you, there'll be no internet anyway, will there? There just won't be a live stream. There could be. I could use my phone data, providing I pay the phone bill. Yeah, and we could do the live stream outside on the deck. That's one option, or I have a torch in here. Couldn't have my laptop though, unless I charge it up before the electric gets cut off. Jeez. Now, things are not that bad at the moment. JJ. Sometimes I bet you wish you were still at Unitech, as all the measuring equipment would have been available to you there. It was, and you saw that in the RAV4 videos. They were done, I think while I was still working at Unitech, and they gave me permission. I did ask. They gave me permission to borrow some of their measuring tools, and that Repco valve spring testing tool, the old Repco one, was brilliant. It made the job very, very simple indeed, and that was the same tool we used when I was teaching the students. I'd like to get one of those. The old tools, not a digital one, just because they're cool, but I had a look around and there weren't any for sale at the time. I am sure there'll be loads of them in workshops around New Zealand, under benches, never been used anymore. So I'll just keep my eye open, and when the opportunity arises, I will make an offer. I'll test it first and make an offer and say, hey, you don't use this anymore, do you? Scraping the dust off. It won't just be a case of blow the dust off, it'll be scrape the dust off. A bit like the valve grinding tool. And 9 times out of 10, they're quite happy to get some beer money for it, So yes, Unitech was a great, they were very, very helpful towards making those videos, actually. They were good lads. Jim K, I'm looking forward to your next email. I'm sure you are, sir. I'm sure you are. It won't be today, though, Jim, but as soon as I get a chance, I'll flick you an email through. John Nuttall, Andy, change the month on the calendar, will you? Oh, yes, we're on a new one, aren't we? We have got a new calendar. So I'll turn you around, have a look. Turn you around, 3, 2, 1, boom. Okay, so I went to go and see Jared last week when I was up in Auckland. And, okay, hang on. Right, and we got a 2026 calendar. How nice was that? Thank you, Jared. So we are still on February. There, look, February. So I need a bench to this, otherwise it doesn't work. There we go. Any red tape required? Nope, no red tape required. We're all good there. Remember the days of the red tape? They were funny days, weren't they? Okay, hang on. It's a bit of a fit. This is where you don't want to drop it because it ends up going down behind the lathe and it becomes a bit of a palaver. Oh, we're in, he says. Nice. Happy? I'm happy. March is going to be a good... Oh, she's got a belly button pierced. Look at that. Very smart. Anyway, yes, March will be a pleasant month in the workshop for sure. Turning around, 3, 2, 1, boom. Hang on, I think Mrs. Mechanic wants me. Hello? Yeah. Oh, the pie. You see, we've not had a pie for ages, so I forget. Let's go and get the pie. 3, 2, 1, boom. Oh, God. Keep turning you guys around. What a muppet, honestly. Okay, here we go. It should be nicely cooled, ready for consumption. What would I do without Mrs. Mechanic, honestly? Right, we'll stick it on there because that really is the only clean place in the workshop at the moment. Right. So, we're back. We have pie. Now, those that have just joined us, the pie is an Oxford's pie, and it's a nacho beef and cheese. I don't mind nacho beef and cheese, or nachos of beef and cheese. I don't mind that at all. I've been known to have one now and again. I'll have some now and again. Right, structural integrity. Here we go. It's pie time. Structural integrity looks reasonably good. We've got a little bit of leakage going on here. Not the end of the world. Underneath looks absolutely perfect, doesn't it? The lid, yes. Very, very tidy little pie, actually. It's oval in shape, this one. It's not square, it's not round. They've gone for the oval size, oval shape. Okay, we're going in. You ready? That little bit of spillage, nice and crunchy. It's still pretty damn hot. Okay, so, God, I haven't done this for a while. Taste, stroke, flavour, contents. We haven't quite got to the contents yet. Right, where do we... I'll put that down for just for a second. Let it cool a little bit more. And we'll do some more comments. So, John, calendar done. And thanks for reminding me. JJ, British standards, BS, generally defines standard ambient temperature for measurements, testing and industrial length calibrations at 20 degrees C. Yes, from Google. Yes, I think you're right. That number rings a bell. In the workshop at the moment, or yesterday doing the measurements, we'll have been around that. It's a little bit cooler in here than it is outside, and it was probably about 23, 24 outside. So we're pretty close. But it was the heat from my fingers, which obviously are quite a lot warmer than that, which I think would have just, as I was rolling the valve through the V-block, I think would have potentially caused some slight distortion, possibly. I don't know. I mean, the DTI essentially, on one occasion, or more than one occasion, it had a different reading at the start point, 360-degree turn, to the finish point. It should really have been the same. I tried not to touch the valve as much. I could have turned the valve head, but I found that it moved around a bit too much to do that. You had a bit more leverage, so I tend to have use my finger on the valve just behind where the DTI is making contact, just to roll it across and keep a very, very slight pressure on the valve downwards in the V blocks to stop it from from moving around. It shouldn't move around, but just to stop it from, to keep it in position. How's that? Just a little bit of preload. And it all worked out really well. I was very, very happy with the measurements on the run out. And as you'll see when you watch the video, the valves, the run out check on both valves was absolutely brilliant. Really, really good. I wasn't expecting that. It failed on many other things, but it was an excellent pass on that one. JJ, time for aircon in the workshop. Yes, I think so. I think maybe even next week. We've got we've got a mobile air conditioning unit, which all I will need to do is put a vent hole in the side of the workshop, and then I can just stand it up on a trolley or something, just temporarily on those hot days. It's quite heavy, so I'm going to bring it out, put it on the trolley, plumb the pipe up, plug it in, and hey presto, I'm pretty sure this is about the same size, maybe slightly bigger than our lounge in volume. The lounge is a bit higher, and it cools the lounge down pretty damn quick. And the lounge has got single glazing on it. On a hot day, obviously, you lose a lot of the coolness through the glass. It's not very well insulated, whereas this workshop's pretty damn well insulated with all the stuff on the walls and things. So no, I think it will work really, really well, and that's something I'm going to look at doing next week, because we're not using it in the lounge at all. We haven't used it all this summer, in all honesty. Although we did buy a new pipe for it because the pipe had perished. Look at that. This is a good pie. That tastes nice. Ooh. This might be one of my top 3 as regards flavour. Yeah, good idea, JD. Aircon. I mean, it's a lot better in here now with the second skin roof on it. It's a lot cooler. It's only on really, really hot days that it gets crazy hot. Most of the time, it's quite tolerable. John Nuttall. That moved my go, no go gauge. Fantastic. Pleased to be of help there, John. Simon. What? But your V-blocks are not a ground pair though. No, they're not ground. They're filed. But they're all right. They're good enough. They're pretty close. When I first did it, I hadn't cleaned them very well, and there was some tiny specks of metal filings on the metal, and you could see the valve stem lift as it picked up one of those, and it changed the reading quite a bit. It was very surprising, actually. It was a good thing to put on camera, because it just highlighted how important it was to make sure that your V-block is nice and clean. Another one was, originally I set it up with the mag mount for the DTI a lot further back, so there was more sway on the arm, more movement on the arm holding the DTI, and that again introduced irregularities. So we moved it as close as we possibly could and made the arms as short as we possibly could, and that made a huge difference to the accuracy. So I tried to highlight all that stuff when I was doing the filming, and when I do the editing up, I'll try and include that in the video, because it's important stuff to know how to set things up, and the implications of having a DTI hanging a long way, or mounted a long way from the piece of work that you're actually trying to measure. It can make a significant difference to the accuracy of the readings. But you're right. I mean, okay, but the V-blocks, I mean, clearly they were good enough, because the reading in itself was brilliant. I did price them up, and they were about $150 for a very small pair of V-blocks. The beauty of that is, because the two V's are from the same piece of steel, and if you're buying V-blocks, that wouldn't be the case. You'd have to use, plus as well, you've got the width of the V-block would limit the distance between the two V-blocks on the valve stem, essentially rendering your test less accurate. You wouldn't highlight or you wouldn't pick up with the DTI the full extent of the run out. You want the two V's to be as far away down the valve stem as possible within the sweeping surface. The clean surface, you don't want to go too far down towards the head, because you get irregularities. There's bits of carbon down there and stuff, plus you've got that radius that then runs out. So That piece of steel was actually perfect for the job. 75 mil, I think it was, between these. Good enough, in my book. Right, back to the pie. I can definitely taste the cheese. Just got a mouthful of cheese then. That's where we're up to now. And it's a little bit spicy. It's nice. It's not overpowering. So taste stroke flavour. I like the flavour actually. I mean, I've been having steak and cheese and jalapeno gourmet pies from Wellbeing Cafe in recent months. I think we did one on the channel. And that's sort of a similar kind of zinginess, you know? So I like that. So taste of, I'm going to give it an 8. No, I'm going to give it, 9. I like it. I'm going to give it a 9. I like the taste. Structure fully partners. Bit early for that one. Well, hang on. It's going to, at the moment, it's scoring really high. Runnability check. 45 degrees for 30 seconds. I'm very confident it's going to pass. That's probably a bit more than 45 degrees, actually. Nothing going on. So despite it having cheese, it's not causing any instability in the contents. It's actually quite solid, which makes it quite a safe pie, you know? It's not going to end up on your lap. So that was a pass. Very happy with that. So it gets 10 for that one. Meat quality. Well, it is mince. It's not chunks of beef, but it is mince. Oh, there you go. You see a little bit of cheese just popping out the top. I like that. It's good. So, meat quality, it's not bad. I've not had any bites of gristle or anything like that yet. It's all been nice mince. I'm going to give it, we'll give it an 8 for now, because we've got to score it as mince. We can't score it as steak, right? It's scored as mince. So as a mince, I'm going to give it an 8. It's pretty good. If we get a chunk of gristle later on, we'll bring that score down. Now, this is where we look at the filling ratio in volume, cross-section, to the pastry. And this pie is actually really, really good. It's full of mince. It's packed. There's no air gaps. The pastry is the lid's very thin. The base is about as thin as you want to make a base. I mean, there's a bit of flex going on, but it's holding in there. There's minimal pastry on the sealing surface here at the two edges, the lid to the casing of the pie. I don't think they could have reduced that anymore. In actual fact, we're just starting to get an indent in the base where my thumb's going. So I'm going to implement a bit of pie management here. 2 hands. Oh, definitely have this one again. So, filling to pastry ratio is extremely good. I am going to give them a 10. I am. It's not often we get a 10 on that one. It's very, very good, and it doesn't seem to be detrimental to the structure of the pie. They seem to have got a really good balance there. Now, availability short logistics. This pie came from Pack and Save in Taupo. Pack and Save are all over New Zealand, and you can also order online. I have seen Oxford pies in some dairies, not all, but the odd dairy also have Oxford pies. So they're readily available and you can get them online. So I think we should give them an 8. Pretty good. They've got it sussed. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to sell many pies if they're not on the shelf where you go shopping. You need to be able to see it to buy it, right? Okay, pastry taste rating. I'm going to steal a bit of pastry off the side here. There's really no meat touching it, which is good. So we'll steal that bit off there. It really is just pastry. It's just pastry taste. Just standard plain pastry. There's no additional flavour into it. Not that I can taste. So it's a little bit gooey, actually, the lid. It's a little bit, you can see the two layers of pastry, and the inner layer is a bit more gooey than the outer, which is maybe what's helping with the, I don't know, with the strength. So I will give that, I'll give it a 7. I think they could have done a bit more with the pastry. Still tasty when cold, probably. We'll do that one later on. Now, packaging design. It's plastic. It's perforated. It has got a window so you can see actually what you're buying. I think it's a pretty cool design. You know, it's distinctive for sure. I think they use color coding on this is yellow for this particular pie, but other pies, other flavored pies are a different color along the bottom. So there's a bit of thought gone into that. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of information on the wrapper about you know, nutrition and all that kind of stuff, and don't eat too many pies and before you eat and that kind of thing. Oh, and we get a personal guarantee as well. Can't read that out because it's around the corner. We are proud of our products. If they do not live up to your expectations, we want to know. Please keep the bag. Yeah, it's pretty standard stuff. Okay, what do I give them for that? I'm going to give them an 8. I think it's actually all right. They've done a good job with that one. Ooh, that was a burp, right? So that's going to affect another score further on. I think if you like mince and you like cheese and you don't mind a little bit of a tanginess to the pie, this is a good pie. And it was only, I think, $4.50. So significantly cheaper than a Wild Bean Cafe pie. The gourmet pies now, I had a steak and cheese gourmet the other week, last week. And $7.50, people, for a gourmet pie now. It's getting pretty expensive. Okay, recyclable score. Is it recyclable? Keep New Zealand clean. Dispose of your wrapper thoughtfully. So no, it's not recyclable at all. But they do tell us to put it in the bin. They tell us not to put it on the floor. We're supposed to dispose of it properly. Do we give them a score? I think we give them 1 for that, don't we, from memory? At least if it goes in the bin, there is a chance they might do something with it. I don't know. It's good. I know I'm taking my time with this one because we haven't done one for a while. Post-pie heartburn. There's been 1 burp, so we're down to 9. That might drop again. Stuffability score. Don't know yet. Pie server attractiveness. It was a young lady at the supermarket. Helpful, pleasant, welcoming. Yeah, I would give her an 8. I'll give her an 8. Good job. Okay, what's still to go? Structure Foley Partners. Well, it's done pretty well, hasn't it? I think we'll lose a point for the underside starting to collapse a little bit, but that really is it. So we're down to 9 for that one. This pie is going to do well, I think. Still tasty when cold. Stuffability score. That's all we're missing now. So let's find out. I think it would taste okay, actually, cold. You know, a couple of days in the glove box, pull it out because you're hungry in the traffic. I think it'll taste okay. Now, just while that's cooling down for a second, I'll just read some comments. I often forget about you guys. Sorry, when I'm doing my pie review, I'll get a bit carried away. A bit focused. Okay. Curly Knox. Next time you're up Northland Way, Drop into Hikarangi home cookery pie shop. Great pies. Right, hang on then. Let me take a picture of that one. All right, it's going down. Ready? Going down. My phone's on timer. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Turn the timer off. Jeez. Okay, it's in the phone. Next time I'm up north, I will do that. Thank you for the recommendation. Well worth a try. Simon was lucky a year back. Found some Eclipse V-blocks. They're good, they are. At a car boot sale for a few quid with the box. With the box. There's a dealer, a motorcycle shop in Hamilton that I visit every now and again. And they have an old lathe and a press, nice old press. And there is an Eclipse DTI stand, the magnetic base, sat on top of the press. It's been there for years. It must get used now and again. But that's where they keep it. You know, magnet turned on, sits on the press. And I took some pictures of it. God knows where they are. It'll be in my phone somewhere. Because it just looked cool. You know, again, old school, proper tools. None of this made in China stuff. Will they sell it? No, they won't ever sell that. And I wouldn't blame them, to be honest. Well worth keeping. That was a good find, Simon. A very good find. That kind of stuff just isn't as readily available here in New Zealand. There isn't doesn't seem to be the history. I mean, South Island maybe. Down there, you might strike lucky. But up here in the North Island, just doesn't. There's not many places selling old tools. Again, I'll keep my eye open. You know, there might be a shop in Dunedin somewhere that does that kind of thing. A lot of the stuff just gets put on Trade Me, you know, or eBay, and sold that way. And it goes for silly money normally as well, which is a shame. But yeah, V-blocks, something I need to look into. I could do with a few different size sets of V-blocks. We'll find some, you know, for the future. You can't have everything all at once. It takes time. Now then, Roger Heaps. Zeus was second smallest of the pups at 16 weeks. 2 were 1 kilogram plus heavier. Wow. So those guys are going to be massive by now. Purple Monkey, 974. I guess a pie score of 102. Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot about the pie. Right, so still tasting when cold. I think it'd be pretty good, actually. Maybe not quite as good as a gourmet steak and cheese. Cold. I'll give it an 8. It's a bit difficult. It's a guesstimate, right? Because it wasn't that cold. Stuffability score. Now, this pie was 220 grams. Now, the average for New Zealand, or the most common, is 200 grams. Anything under than 200 grams is a bit of a, you know, you sort of, you know, tried to skimp me out on the rest of my pie if it's under 200. Anything over 200, good job. Okay, so I'm happy with that. 220 grams. Stuffability score. Do I want anything else to eat? No, I don't. Actually, I found that pie very satisfying. I found it tasty, and it hasn't left me hungry, and it hasn't left me stuffed either. I mean, sure, I can tell it's there, right? It's sat in my belly, and it's going fiery, fiery, fiery. Just a little bit, right? It's just, you know, burbling away because of that sort of spicy taste to it. So I'm going to give it, I'll give it a 10. What the hell? Be honest, Andy. It was a 10. Don't need any more. Don't need any less. It did exactly what it needed to do. Okay, we need to do some arithmetic. Are you ready? Okay, so Purple Monkey reckons 102. Turn you around, 3, 2, 1. Boom! Let's see where we end up. I know it's going to be a good score. I can feel it in my bones. Okay, going down. There you go, look. That's all the scores in one shot. Jeez, I've got to remember how to add up again now. So 18, 28, 36, 46, 54, 61, 69, good number, 69, 77, 78, 87, 97, wow, we're getting there, 97, 105, wow, that's a good score. Now I need to remember to take a photo of that because we still haven't got any magnetic strips. I'm useless. They moved premises and I can't find them anymore, the people I got them from. Right, we have a photo, it's in the phone, it's in the archives. Let's go and see where this pie, the Oxford pie, nacho beef and cheese, where did that end up on the board? 105. Very, very good score for a relatively cheap pie, to be fair. Oh man, look at that. So it's joint third. I love pies, Angus beef, steak and rosemary. That was a nice pie, remember that one? So it will fit in there, in that gap. So joint third in New Zealand. Who would have thought that from a plastic bag pie? Well done, Oxford. Very tasty. I like it. But now you can go in the bin. Sorry, mate. You've done your job. Okay. Right. Back to the bench. We'll have one more cigarette and then we'll have to call it a day, I think. Got a few more comments. Turn you around, 3, 2, 1, boom. You're not quite level at that. Just bear with me. There we are. Okay. Okay, so where did we get to? That was a good pie. If you ever see one of those pies and you don't mind, you know, a little bit of spicy, a little bit of hotness to your pie, strongly recommend one of those. I really would. And for the money, especially based on today's pie prices, that was a cheap pie in reality. Okay, where do we get to? So Purple Monkey, you're pretty damn close. And I mean, you guessed that before I'd even set the last two scores. So well done, mate. JJ, any news on the Jimny steering issue? The Jimny has gone for its very first in-use warrant of fitness. So an MOT, basically, if you live in England, because it got to 3 years old. I know, 3 years we've had that vehicle. Just over 3 years now. It needed a warrant, an inspection middle of December. We elected not to get it done. Didn't use the vehicle anyway, really, on a day-to-day basis. So it just sat in the garden with all the other vehicles. Sacrilege, really. New car. In my mind, it's a new car. Until a couple of weeks ago. And Mrs. Mechanic took that one, and then the following day she took Larry the carry. We got them through the inspection. Both of them passed with flying colours. No problems at all. Other than Larry the carry probably could do with some new front brake pads soon. But he only does a few hundred Ks a year. Those brake pads will last him a few years. There's very little on them. The only concern is the piston in the caliper is exposed quite a bit. And with it being stood around and not used every day, those pistons can corrode. So it might be prudent for me to just chuck some new pads in it and get those pistons back into safety behind the seal. That would be a sensible thing to do. Maybe I'll try and find some more brake pads for it in the next few weeks. And we'll do a video fitting some brake pads to Larry the carry. Why not? And then we could do another video looking at the rear brakes because I've not been in there. We can check the rear wheel bearings at the same time. He's not had a lot of love, little Larry, to be honest. He's a great little truck, but we've not really done much to him yet. In fact, he's due an oil change, I would say. I think there'll be some Larry the carry videos soon. The way things are going. So yeah, as regards the wibbly wobbliness of the Jimny, we fitted the free-running hubs. It hasn't really been driven since then any distance. Is there somebody at the door? Hello? Oh, hang on. Bear with me. There's somebody at the door. Hang on. That was a very gentle... No, is it a possum? Oh no, it's Mrs. Mechanic. Thank you very much, honey. got smoothie coffee. Okay. We have a fresh coffee. She must have known. Oh, it's Steve's mug. There you go, look. You're awesome, Steve. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. I do watch your posts, look at your posts and stuff. Doing a fantastic job. So pleased his health has come back 100% by the looks of it. Cheers, Steve. Oh, it can't beat a good coffee. So yeah, so we don't really know yet. I'm pretty confident it's an electronic thing. When I took the Isuzu in for a service recently, I asked them to do, because it's been doing this weird problem of thinking there's something to crash into directly in front of the vehicle. And the most recent one was on a completely open road. There were no shadows. There was a little bit of sunlight, but it wasn't direct, so it wasn't blinding. It wasn't refracting off the windscreen or bouncing off the windscreen too much. And I was doing about 80 kilometers an hour at the time, and it decided to slam the brakes on. Yeah. So there I am, just listening to the tunes in the car. No other cars around, nobody behind me, nobody in front of me, no open road, right? Just me driving along 80 k's an hour. All of a sudden, the warning triangle flashes up on the dash. Brake, 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 brake. The red lights, the reflector lights off the inside of the windscreen, all the LEDs come on. Brake, 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 brake. And I'm like, what's going on? And then it then applies the brake. Hard, like emergency stop kind of. And I'm like, what is going on? So as soon as I dabbed the brake pedal or the throttle, throttle it was, I was like, what are you playing at? I just planted the throttle to the floor, and then it decided to give up and allow me to carry on. But, what a hazard. If there'd been a car behind, that probably would have been an accident. So I took it for a service. I said, look, lads, can you just do a scan code check? I want to see how often, does it record the date and the time that it activates that system? Because I'd like to collate how many times it's done it, I need to report this to management. It's a liability. It's just an accident waiting to happen, and ironic that it's a safety feature causing, there hasn't been one occurrence where I've been grateful it's happened and it's helped prevent an accident. There just hasn't. There's been none of those. So they scanned it and they came back. They gave me a printout and they said, it doesn't record it. Doesn't record the date and time that system's activated. Sorry, mate. And there were no codes. There were no codes stored whatsoever. I was, great. Can you alter the sensitivity of the system so it's a little bit dumbed down? And so he went out and talked to the tech and came out and said, nah, that particular model, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way it is. And then he started going on about a car that he had, and it had a similar issue. And I'm like, well, it's just something you got to live with, he said. Great, thank you. And my biggest concern was if the vehicle did cause an accident under the current legalities, the way that the law is set, I'd be responsible for that accident, because you're responsible for your vehicle while you're driving it, and potentially I could be held accountable, and I don't feel happy about that. Anyway, so with the Jimny, I know that they can adjust the sensitivity. I spoke to somebody about a year ago about it. They said, oh yeah, we can actually put the scan tool on, and we can do a deep dive, and adjust that particular system, the sensitivity on it. But we've not been back to get it done yet. I wanted to fit the freewheeling hubs first, because they wanted to go on anyway and see if that made any difference. I don't think it will. I really don't think it will. Anyway. It might improve the handling a little bit, when they're disconnected in the free position, it won't track the road quite so much. That's pretty standard for any little Suzuki Jeep. They tend to bounce around potholes and bits and pieces. Any impact on one front wheel tends to affect the other front wheel as well. It sort of gets transferred through the diff when you haven't got freewheeling hubs. So we'll see. Work in progress. I do intend to try and drive that Jeep a little bit more in the next few months, so I'll report back. So what's the hang on, we jumped around, sorry. Hang on, scroll up, you guys are being busy again. Simon, Having Barry just down the road with the second-hand tool and machinery place, never short of a bit when needed. You would love a rummage through the place. He's cheap too. I really would, Simon. I'd love to have a shop like that. Local to me here. It'd be absolutely brilliant. I'll have to try and find one. I'm sure there must be one somewhere in New Zealand. Mr. Haynes, I found out the other day that Repco Auto Parts was bought by the US company Napa Auto Parts. It was, yes. We still have Repco stores all over New Zealand. They're very popular. A little bit expensive, but they are a retail store. And we do now have Napa in New Zealand, and they what I would call motor factors. They do still provide retail as well. You can walk in off the street as Joe Public and buy stuff from them, but they actively go out and supply car workshops with parts, basically, aftermarket parts and stuff. I've not had any dealings with them yet, but they're definitely here for sure. For James, what's the mileage on the Jimny? We must be around 16,000 kilometers. Now, the reason why I say that is the bulk of the mileage was done on the monkey bike trip. We did about 7,000 kilometers on that trip in that little Jeep with the trailer on, and it performed brilliantly. It had done maybe a couple of thousand kilometers, maybe 3 before the trip, and it's probably done a similar number since. So we're probably around 15, 16, maybe 17,000 Ks. I'll have to have a look. It hasn't done that much work, considering it's 3 years old. But, company car, you use that, right? Whenever you can. Roger Heaps. I have both the Suzuki Carry both of the Suzuki Carriers out of my shed in anticipation of getting new engine in before winter. Excellent, Roger. One of those machines needs to get back on the road, doesn't it? You need to, put it back together, because they're actually a cool little truck. Keep me posted. Be a good one, that. Connor K. Thank you, Mrs. Mechanic, for bringing fresh cup of coffee to Andy. She's watching. She'll get that. Show the appreciation and click the like button. Excellent. Thank you, Connor. And it's a good coffee. Thank you, Steve. There you go. I'd go as far to say it's an awesome cup of coffee because it's in your awesome mug. Purple Monkey, is it radar or optical, the braking thing? I think it's radar on that one, from memory. Yes, it only has one lens, so that won't be camera, right? If it's camera, there's normally more than one lens, so it can perceive depth and so on. I think. I'm not that familiar with the system, to be honest. It's sort of a bit modern for me. I know I just don't like it as a driver. I'm an old driver. I don't need that, that kind of stuff. It's crap, in all honesty. Sure, I'm sure it's a valuable safety system and it will no doubt save some lives. Yes. But it's also a known fact that with all these additional safety systems in vehicles, drivers are far less engaged in doing their driver thing because they feel more safe. And because they feel more safe, they feel they can flick a text through to my mate, or I'll look at some Facebook posts, or I'll take lots of phone calls. They're not as engaged and as focused on the driving aspect as they should be. And I'm of the opinion that when you're a driver, all you're there to do is to drive and nothing else other than breathe, obviously. You've got to focus on the driving because shit goes down. The roads are busy and there's some bad drivers out there. And you shouldn't be relying on safety systems to keep you alive. John Nuttall, cut back on tool spending, ? Time to try vaping. I will never go anywhere near a vape. There's some, it might be propaganda. I don't know what it is, but there's some bad stories out there that I've read about people that do vaping. Young people as well. It's terrible how it's affected the body. To me, it's an unknown quantity. I don't smoke anywhere near as much as I used to do. I might have, if I'm away on the road, I might have 3 cigarettes a day if I'm busy. one in the morning, once maybe during the day, maybe at lunchtime, maybe in the afternoon, then maybe one in the evening. You know, a packet of cigarettes could last me a whole week, no problem at all. When I'm at home, I do tend to smoke a bit more. That's just the nature of the beast. And saying that, it's gone out. What the hell? Simon, see if they get you a Mog, you won't have. See if you get yourself a Mog, you won't have the issues with the ADAS system. I know a Unimog would be absolutely brilliant, but Mrs. Mechanic, she's not over keen on the idea, unfortunately. I must admit, I have had the privilege of owning a Unimog for a good 10 years, and it was a phenomenal piece of kit. And I knew how to drive it. I did a lot of off-road driver training, did a lot of off-road recovery work in that vehicle, a lot of track repair work in that vehicle. It was just, I can't say unstoppable because everything has its faults. And in the Unimog, it weighed 5 tons empty. So the one place you didn't go was boggy ground. And I did get it stuck a couple of times. In fact, I got it stuck on a Nissan GB launch day. This was funny. And a journalist was driving a black Nissan Patrol, brand new model, and its registration was grrr. So I flagged him down and said, mate, I need your help. And he's like, oh, no, I want to take some pictures. I says, well, I can't drive both vehicles at once. Nah. Here's the Patrol, do what you need to do. So I put the Unimog in low ratio first, set the hand throttle to about a third, so the tyres, and put the diff locks in, and the tyres are just slowly churning through the peat bog. It was bellied out. It was well stuck. Put the kinetic rope on the front of the Unimog onto the back of the Patrol, reverse the Patrol right as far as I dare to the front of the Unimog. I mean, the Patrol was half the weight, so it wasn't sinking too much. And then just set off hell for leather in second gear low box in the Patrol. Just foot to the boards. Launched it. And the kinetic rope obviously started to stretch, and then there was this badoing, and I felt this almighty jerk on the Patrol. Came to a stop, pulled me back a little bit, looked in the rearview mirror, and there's the Unimog, boop, out of the hole, and now coming towards me. Slowly, but coming towards me. So I had to put the handbrake on, put it in neutral, jump out of the Patrol, run back to the Unimog, jump into the Unimog, press the clutch down, and get it stopped before it decided to drive into the back of the Patrol. And bearing in mind, those kinetic ropes were only 8 meters long. I ran that day. And I got the Unimog stopped about a meter before I hit the Patrol. And the journalist comes over and he goes, I have never seen anything like that. That was amazing. And I'm like, thank you very much. Right, let me get the rope unshackled and you can carry on with your job. It was just classic. It was a classic recovery. It could have gone tragically wrong. It really could. I could have tripped over or something. That would have been it. You know, how do you explain to Nissan GB that the back of their Patrol is completely crumpled up in a Unimog shape? Anyway, fun and games. We get Napa in the UK now. Wow. I think they're a part of Alliance Automotive, who are massive in the parts network. Well, I used to work, here's a revelation for you, back in the UK, when I left college, I got a job with TC Harrison's in York. They were a Rover dealership, and as a Rover dealership, they did Unipart. And if you're in the UK, you'll have heard of Unipart, red boxes, white and blue stripes, that kind of stuff. And they used to make parts, aftermarket parts, pretty much for all vehicles, not just Rovers. And I was a rep, and I used to go around, you know, the various workshops around my area, my territory, and take orders and deliver stuff and that kind of thing. And it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being on the road. And then I moved jobs. I got offered a job with Partco in York. Kevin at the time, he's probably passed away now. Kevin was the manager, and they run around in red vans, little Citroen C5 vans, I think they were. And I had a little Citroen AX, little tiny puddle hopper Citroen AX as my company car. And and did a similar thing, basically. You know, they supplied parts, aftermarket parts, to lots of different workshops around the York area. I used to cover Malton, York, and all up that neck of the woods, the bottom of the North Yorkshire moors. And again, I enjoyed it. It was different, you know. There was a bit of pressure on to sell stuff, Andy, but the bottom line was I just turned up and took orders. I didn't try to influence sales, really. I just tried to keep a good working relationship, because sometimes when they ordered parts, they weren't delivered on time and things weren't so good. So, you know, you can't deliver parts late for a few weeks and then ask them to buy more parts from you. It doesn't work that way. You've got to get your service sorted out before you can start to boost sales. And I wasn't involved in doing the daily parts runs. I was a rep. Sure, every now and again, if I was going that way, I'd take the parts myself, and it'd save the driver a run, and I'd guarantee they got them there on time. But you shouldn't rely on that. And they did, and they had problems. And in the end, I decided to leave. You know, I started up my own off-road centre, and it was fun. But looking back now, terrifying, really. I wouldn't do it now, but back then, you know, I was invincible. I'd do anything. You know, we had no money. Just got on with it. Made it work. Now then. Bill! Hey, morning, Bill. Morning, Andy. Remembered you made a water feature for Mrs. Mechanic. Cement mixer, pressure washer, and a scrap as a counterbalance. Yes, in the garden. That was a very, very dangerous water feature, Bill. It was good fun. Now then, it comprised of 2 hubs mounted, I think, on the treehouse from memory. And there were Suzuki Jeep hubs on stub axles mounted to a plate, bolted to the treehouse. And we used brake discs to create like a pulley. And there was some old Supercat chains, drive chains, that we used, like a double width chain that ran across over the 2 pulleys, on the camera, Andy, over the 2 pulleys, and then down. And at one end was a bucket made from Suzuki Jeep wheel rims with the centers cut out, and a base welded on, a bit of tin 3mm plate or something at the bottom, and all the holes, you know, the valve holes and stuff welded up. So this big heavy bucket that would fill up with water. And the water came from a cement mixer in the potting shed that I'd modified to work in conjunction with a pressure washer to clean muddy overalls. And it was brilliant. It worked absolutely fantastic. All the water would drain through holes around the circumference of the cement mixer that we'd drilled, and it drained into a big plastic tank, and in the tank was a water pump with a float valve. So whenever the tank filled up, the pump would activate and it would pump the water out along a pipe that was suspended on a tensioned wire cable that then filled up the bucket, right? The bucket being at the top, being empty, it would fill that up. And of course, the weight of that bucket would increase. And at the other end of the chain was a counterbalance. And the counterbalance was made from, I believe there was some flywheels, probably an old Daihatsu flywheel, 2.5 diesels, pretty heavy flywheel, maybe 2 of those, some Suzuki Jeep flywheels. And I think there might have even been a crankshaft. I can't remember about that bit, but there was all sorts of stuff welded together to try and get the weight right. So that when the bucket finally reached full, it was then heavier than the counterbalance, and it would basically head towards ground earth. And it picked up a fair bit of speed, right? And it would smash into the ground. The counterweight would swing around like there's no tomorrow. But the bucket had some small drain holes in it. So then it would drain off to the point where it would then go back up, and the counterweight would come crashing down to the ground, put a big dent in the grass, and then it would start all over again. And the beauty was that the float valve pump wasn't always working. It was intermittent, so the whole thing had time to drain and reset and stuff. And the whole tree house, the whole tree used to shake every time this thing activated. And, I was watching it work just after we first made it. I got all the staff, look at this, look what I've made. They're like, man, Andy, you're mad. And we watched it a couple of times. And then one of them said, don't your kids play around that area, in the tree house? And I was like, yeah. What if it lands on one of them? It's going to kill them. Ah, yeah, good point. It's actually quite dangerous, isn't it? So we had to put up a little fence around it to stop the kids going in. because we still wanted it to work, right? You know, I put a lot of work into it, but it was very cool. And thank you for reminding me about that, Bill. It was a cool little project and something that I managed to fit in and around doing all my other duties around the business. It was nice to make things. I used to enjoy that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm pleased you remember that, Bill. Very, very cool. And it will have long gone now. The farm that we used to live at, there's obviously different people living there now, and a lot of the infrastructure that we put into that property. There was a big clothes line. Again, for all these, we had over 200 pairs of cotton overalls that we used to use for the quad trekking that used to get absolutely blathered in mud whenever they were worn. So obviously you couldn't give your next customer a muddy pair of overalls. They all used to get new, cleaned overalls, and you got all the different sizes as well. So we had to have a lot of them. So once they came out of the cement mixer, the pressure washer mixer thing that we made, they then got hung. Well, we used to spin them in an old Whirlpool washing machine. Didn't used to wash them in there, just spun them in that, put them on spin cycle and get some of the water out. And then Mrs. Mechanic would then hang them up on this massive clothesline, which is a big steel cable that also ran out towards the treehouse. It ran along the wall of the house, and we used Suzuki Jeep rims on hubs as the pulleys, and it was a triangle. And you could actually get all the overalls in one hit up on this line, and it was powered using a mains powered capstan winch that was mounted on the wall, which was actually a hoist winch. So it was mounted, with the drum vertically rather than horizontal, and the steel cable was wrapped around it a couple of times. So you had to be a bit careful. Obviously, you couldn't run the overalls through where the winch was, but you'd put the overalls on directly after the winch. And then she used to have this, this lance controller, spool in, spool out. And then she ka-dunk, and these overalls would travel across the garden a few feet. And then she put some more on, and the next few pairs would go up. It was quite a sight. And this washing line contraption, when you got all the overalls up, there was a hell of a lot of weight hanging off it. A wet pair of cotton overalls is a few kgs, and there was literally a couple of hundred of them on some days. So it was dealing with a lot of weight. Again, another contraption that I built. Great fun and great memories, Bill. Thank you for that. Yeah, great fun. Simon, Alliance Automotive took over Unipart when they went bust in 2014. Unipart went bust? Holy crap, I didn't know that. Wow, that was after we'd left the UK. So, Lee Howard, hey Andy, used to work for you at Langdale Quest. I was 16 back then. Good to see you're alive and well. Lee, holy crap. You've tracked me down. Well, good to see you, Lee. And yes, I am fit and well, matey. Thank you very much. Busy over here in New Zealand, have been here since 2009. Life sometimes throws you a bit of a curveball and you just got to deal with it. And yes, the Langdale Quest, the off-road site we had, it was fun. It was fun. It was a very high-risk business to run. It was a very difficult business to run with all the authorities and the controlling factors because of that. And it got to a point where it just became too much, unfortunately, and we had to make a decision to close the site. It was a terrible shame. It was something which we'd worked on for many, many years to build up. And the takeaway for me is we gave me, Emma, and our team, we had a very loyal team of staff, Bill being one of them. We gave a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people, a really good, unique day out. Whether they were driving a four-wheel drive or out on a quad bike or riding trail bikes or jumping in the Unimog for an experience or going on a supercat or an ArgoCat ride. Everything we did, we always did the best we possibly could. It was a very stressful environment. Some days there was a lot going on. We could have hundreds of people doing different activities each day, and with people with their own vehicles on the site. It was a 10,000 acre site. We could have a couple of hundred vehicles on site, and that takes a lot of managing, especially when most of them are out on their own. You know, we used to use CB radios to keep in contact with all the customer vehicles and stuff. And it was quite an operation. It really was. It was fun. Did we make a lot of money out of it? No, we didn't. We put back into the business nearly everything that we earned. But we really enjoyed doing it, and it created us a living, and that was the important thing. And it was a great environment for the kids to grow up in. And we met a lot of very cool people, and some great staff as well, I must admit. We were very fortunate. So thank you for your comment, Lee. I really appreciate that. Simon, that rings a bell. Did you do red letter days off-roading? I don't think we ever got into the red letter ones. Hey? We did. Mrs. Mechanic remembers. Yes, red letter days then. I do remember when we first started, and this is before Langdale Quest. This is when we used to use the green lanes on the North Yorkshire moors. We had the Times newspaper contact us because we'd had an article go out in Off-Road and Four-Wheel Drive magazine, written by Alan Kidd, who was the editor back then. So this would be back in like 1993, I think it would have been, long time ago. A full 3-page spread article in this magazine. It was for a small business like ours, and we only had a couple of maybe three Jeeps at the time, 3 little Suzukis. You know, this was massive coverage for a tiny company. And Alan, he joined us for the day, and he took the photos and stuff, and he had a fantastic time out with us on the North Yorkshire moors, and he wrote a really good article. Anyway, the Times picked up on it, and they wanted to do a promotion where if you collected so many coupons or whatever it was, or it was some kind of promotion anyway, and they put it out in the Times. And back then, you know, we used to still receive checks as payment. And I remember for the next few days, the amount of post that we got was unbelievable. We were receiving bookings left, right, and centre from that small article in the Times newspaper. And that really gave the business a boost. It's just amazing how one small gesture from a big newspaper like that can make all the difference. And of course, the magazine as well. You know, we were quite humbled by it all. It was great. But, you know, we saw that the future, if the usage of the green lanes, which were public roads, right? They were public roads maintained by the county, well, supposedly maintained by the county council. They were paid by central government per mile of green lane to keep maintained, but unfortunately, often that money was never spent on those particular lanes. It was spent elsewhere, so they did fall into disrepair and get overgrown and stuff, unfortunately. But we still made it down, and we used to clear some of the stuff out of the way because you had a rite of passage, a legal rite of passage. But saying that, you know, with the growth in the four-wheel drive industry and people going off-roading as a hobby, which was just exploding in the UK at the time, it became very clear that the green lanes couldn't cope or would not cope with that level of usage. They would just get destroyed. So we approached the Forestry Commission in the UK and said, look, this is an issue. We do it as a company as well, but we want to do something to try and alleviate this and give people an alternative, a managed site to go and use the vehicles on. And they gave us Langdale Forest under contract on a very short 7-month contract to see how it went, just to test the water. And they charged us £70, £10 a month. I'm not kidding, £10 a month. It was a token payment. And we went in and we surveyed the forest and made the maps, put the roots in, cleared a lot of the old fire breaks that were all overgrown, put the roots in. And they said, you have to be open by April. You've got to be open for Easter. I remember that now. It took us probably 6 months to set the site up and to get all the roots put in and all the marker posts and things, you know, and just to get the whole thing ready to go. And we opened for Easter, and we couldn't believe it. You know, we had so much passing trade, so many tourists coming down over the Easter period. Just those 4 days were really, really busy, and we were flat out. We ran out of Jeeps. We had loads of people in their own four-wheel drives, and that was like a bit of a revelation to us. We're like, wow, this actually, we've got the formula right. We just need to make it profitable now by having more vehicles, more staff, upsize, basically. So we spent a few years doing that, and well, you know the rest of the story, Lee. It just worked, and it worked really, really well. But it was a very expensive company to run. Insurances were massively expensive. Rents got massively expensive. We had to obviously pay the forestry for the lease. That got really expensive. We had to get planning permission for the site. That was really expensive. It took us 10 years to get planning for that site. A lot of money went, a lot of the earnings went into just getting planning permission. It was just crazy. But, you know, it gave us, I think we were in Langdale for 11, 12 years, something like that. And very, very fun. I wouldn't change any of it. It was a fantastic time. And, you know, like I said, we gave lots of people a lot of fun. And that's what it's all about. Where do we get to? Lee again, good times, Andy. I have some great memories from back then out in the patrol and the Unimog. Yeah, it's good fun. Good fun. Simon, lol, just got a check last week. You're kidding me. You still got checks in England. We don't have checks here in New Zealand anymore. Connor K, 10,000 acres, many vehicles, and a story in the times. That is a big footprint in the off-roading market. Were you ever contacted by Top Gear about the use of your land? Not Top Gear, no. I think really at the time, Top Gear hadn't really evolved into doing that much out of the studio and off outside their filming areas. They weren't really doing the adventures much then. We did get contacted by many companies. I used to do training, Unimog driver training and off-road driver training for a number of the police and fire brigade. We used to do many corporate days. Nissan, Skoda, Ford. We did corporate days for companies like McDonald's. That's the restaurant, McDonald's. Just honestly, a list as long as your arm. Yeah, we had one guy very early on, again before the Quest, when we were doing the Green Lanes. James Wigmore, that's the name. So a guy called James Wigmore contacted us, and he said, I want to bring my team. I want you to do an off-road driving day for my team. Okay, up on the North Yorkshire moors. Yep, no problem. So we did like Rutland Rig, Beadland Rig, and you know all the Farndale descent and all that kind of stuff. Great fun, great day out. It was snowing as well, I believe. There was snow on the ground, and he brought a film crew with him. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. You know, and the day went pretty well, actually. We put a lot of planning into it. He said it has to go right and it has to stick to schedule. So we were very, very keen on keeping the convoy moving, and any vehicles that got stuck, we got them unstuck pretty quick. And a couple of weeks later, a VHS tape turned up in the post. And I'm like, what's that? And he had put together at his expense a promotional video for our company to help us to, you know, promote ourselves and get more business. Very cool. So it's a long time ago, right? So we had a lot of people help us out. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to sign off. Okay, crew, see you next time. Cheers, over and out.